Hi everyone, I'm Allison Shelton. I'm back on Instagram Live. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From, number 54 with Jacqueline. And she'll be here momentarily. And so, what is it that you're reading? I'm reading H is for Hawk, for a change of pace from what I have been reading lately, which has been really intense books. Wonderful. I hope that you're enjoying what you're reading. And there's Jacqueline. Hi.
Hi, Allison.
How are you? I have not been on Instagram Live for about a month because I have been blocked for mysterious reasons. So this is my first time on Instagram Live in about a month.
Well, I'm glad I'm one of your first guests.
You're my first. You're my
Yay!
first. So it's exciting to be doing it live again. And how are you today?
I'm well. I'm
Good.
doing well. Thank you for asking. It's Friday, so
That's always pleasant, happy occasion. Unless, of course, you work on the weekends and then not as much. But for
well,
those of
with
us,
those of us who work for ourselves, we
always work.
Mhm.
That's true. Is there anything that you would like to share or say before you begin? Or do you want to just do your poem, or what do you prefer?
This is my first poem ever that I've ever.
Congratulations.
So I really appreciated the challenge. Thank you.
That takes bravery, Jacqueline, to just go for it. And yeah, because a lot of people, it's their first poem and they feel sort of like apologetic or about it. Like, I don't know about this. I'm not so good at this, but I enjoy them all.
Well, I tried not to listen to your other guests because they're so good, and I would have felt even more inferior. So,
Some of them can be a bit intimidating. I would agree. Yes, I feel like I should have a suggested playlist because some of them it's like, oh, you're a poet. You do this every day. So this is very impressive. But they're all impressive. I'm here to say. Um, and when I spoke to George Ella Lyon, she said something about how citizen poetry, she's quoting another poet whose name I need to memorize so that I can use it, but how how poetry belongs to all of us. And that struck me about it does belong to all of us. It's very tied to I think how we think and express ourselves in these ways, and we sort of put it off, like, or I have, that it's intellectual or it's for people more talented than me or more serious or more. No, it's for all of us.
I think so. It's kind of like what I teach. I teach etiquette, and
Right.
I try to tell people the same thing. It really
Mm-hmm.
is for all of us. It's not for the upper crust or
Mm-hmm.
for the wealthy. It's really all about kindness and consideration and respect.
I read your top 20 tips. Is it 20, 10 that you had on your Instagram? And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I think I do almost all those things. And they are just about sort of moving through the world with grace and gratitude.
It is. I love that.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
not, yeah, you don't have to be fancy to have good etiquette.
No, no. I live in a very simple cottage in Mount Dora, Florida, which is in the center of the state of Florida. And when I moved here 6 years ago, I downsized and I just got rid of all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciate the simplicity of life and just those little things.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I get overwhelmed with too much stuff. I'm a person who's like, can we throw this away? Are we done with this? I'm done with this, and they're like, no. And then for a while, my family would be like, I can't find this. Did you throw it away? No, I didn't. Not without your permission. I would do that,
I know.
even
And
though I
so
may be tempted
the
to
only
do
thing
it.
the only things I really didn't throw away were my photographs, my memories, which leads me to the poem that I'm going to
Mm-hmm,
read today because I went back to some of those photographs
mm-hmm,
to try to think of the things that I am and where
mm-hmm,
I am from.
mm-hmm. I loved your photo that you shared with me and that I shared in the post. It's so evocative of a time,
Yeah,
like you feel transported by it just
the
looking
one
at it.
with the bow in my hair.
Yes.
I think that was 71,
It
19.
feels very Brady Bunch to me.
Yes, yes.
You
Hmm.
know, I can imagine you in one of the squares.
Hmm.
Okay, well, would you like to go ahead? I don't think you're going to get a better introduction than that.
Okay, well, it's short and sweet. I'm telling you, it's shorter than
It's
most.
not that short. You said it's short, and I was imagining before I read it like it was going to be, 4 lines or something. But
Oh,
it's.
well, it's anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, go for it.
I am from sunshine and citrus groves, porch swings and sweet tea. I am from azalea bushes blooming vividly in my backyard, bursting fuchsia petals just in time for Easter. I am from orange blossoms, a harbinger of good luck, health, and fertility. I'm from pot roast dinners and scenic drives on lazy Sunday afternoons. From Elsie Mae and Rogers. I'm from briny bootleggers and suntanned cotton farmers. From you're the best, you're as good as the best and better than the rest. I'm from family night suppers and vacation Bible school at First Baptist Church, handbells and choir rehearsals. I'm from the heart of Florida and a Revolutionary War soldier. Fried pork chops with rice and tomato gravy. From my mother's fingers stained with permanent wave lotion to the varicose veins in her legs brought on by standing long hours at the beauty salon. Large plastic bins underneath my bed contain hundreds of family photos, past and present. Births, deaths, marriages, divorces. I am the sum of all the faces and places. Memories, past and present, reminding me of who I am today.
Yay! You
Thank
did
you.
it! You did it!
I did it.
That was beautiful. For me, I was struck by, because I grew up in California, how we have some overlap with the orange blossoms and all the different flowers, but very different flowers other than the orange blossoms. And then, of course, Florida has much more of a southern. My husband's from Texas. So then there was some overlap there with sweet tea and pork chops and all of those things. And what a lovely um, saying that your family had.
Oh, well, it was my grandmother who said it. She said, she called me Jack when I was a little girl. Not Jackie, not
Yeah.
Jacqueline, but Jack.
Hmm.
She'd always say, Jack, you're as good as the best and better than the rest.
That's very sweet.
And I
And
guess
that's,
that was her way of trying to build my confidence.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how I took it. I guess there is another sort of, you could feel like pressure from it. That's another take on it. But I felt this like cheering on, believing in, building up.
Well, she
Um,
came from humble beginnings. She had a seventh grade education. She was born in 1900, and she always wanted her children to grow up and get an education. That was the most important thing in our family, was get an education. I don't care if you get a degree in basket weaving, just get an education.
basket
And
weaving. That's a flash from the past. I remember when that people would say that. That was there ever a degree in basket weaving?
I
Like
don't
that's one of
know.
those. This is something people said. Um, yeah, basket weaving. So education, I think, is was a very important. I was my father was the first one in my family to go in his side of the family to go to college, and it changed his life, and his it was it was all the things that people want to believe it is still, which it isn't for everybody now, but certainly then it was a game changer. It brought him out of poverty and opened up the world to him. I was always fascinated. I mean, he didn't share a lot of his personal life, like history with me. So when he did, I found it interesting. And, like he went to one restaurant before he went to college ever, which was difficult for me to comprehend.
Mhm.
But they didn't have those kinds of means.
And where did he grow up?
He grew
Texas?
up here,
Oh,
actually. Yeah, in
okay.
Los Angeles.
Angela.
Yeah. um, they migrated out here during the Great Depression, his parents, to try and find a better life, sort of
Hmm.
that.
And my mom was a beautician.
Yes,
So
that's what I gathered.
even though she didn't go to a formal college, she went to what they
Beauty
called beauty
school.
college.
Hmm.
Yes, beauty school, beauty college back then.
Hmm.
And that was her education. And believe it or not, she was a beautician for 50 years.
Yeah,
And
that's a lot of time on your legs.
it is a lot of time on your legs. And
Hmm.
we buried her with her beautician's license because
Oh
she
my
did
goodness.
upon it.
Wow. That's incredible. And I'm sure she had people like clients that she saw for decades, I would
Yes.
imagine.
And she even did their hair after they died.
Oh my
She'd
God.
go to the funeral home and she
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
curl and style their hair for their funeral. So yes,
Hmm.
she stayed with them till they were in the ground.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it except my husband's grandmother, she got her hair did. She got her hair done regularly by her lady who did her, and that was one of the last things that she really hung on to as she went into her decline. Like she really wanted to get her hair done by her friend who did her hair for decades. Like there's a real relationship there with.
Huge. And when my mom passed, I ended up doing her makeup for her funeral because she did not want the funeral home director to do it. And her best friend, who was a beautician, did her hair.
Oh,
Yes. So that was a real,
that's really sweet. That's really, and that was also something new to me. I did not have open casket funerals in my life. And so that was something when I married my husband, I was like, you do what now? Oh, okay. And that's
oh yes, it's
good
very
and
fun.
fun,
I
you
mean,
know?
we show
Well,
up a day in advance and we have a fellowship and
hmm.
um, where a
The
viewing,
viewing. Yeah.
if you will.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was all new to me, and picking out the clothes, and like you say, the hair and makeup and the clothes and the whole, it's a very deliberate choices and
Hmm.
thought through, and I was struck by, I'm sure you had this experience with your mom, all the people who come through at the viewing or the funeral who just say goodbye,
Hmm. Hmm.
whose lives she touched, like,
Well, by then, my mom's
did
friends
she
had
die
all
as an older,
passed.
she
A
was
lot of them
older.
had passed.
She'd gone to all the funerals.
Yes.
Uh-huh. That's the other, that was, yeah, we had that too, where it's like, oh, she was the one, she was the one who made it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the South, what women do is they'll look at the body in the casket, particularly a woman, and they'll say, "Oh, she looks so good.
Yes.
She
Yes.
looks so good."
Yeah.
So my mother wanted everybody to say that about her.
Yeah. Oh man. Those, and I love these poems for so many reasons, but I love all the different cultural touchstones that we have. I've talked to people outside of the United States, but many of them have been here, that we have here. Like we have such a wealth of backgrounds and experiences, and I love hearing about them from a personal perspective, and usually through the eyes of the child, or the eyes of your younger self. So what was the experience of writing this poem for you, Jacqueline? You took it on, first of all, so that was part of the experience, but then how did you feel when you like sat down to think about it and write it?
It a lot of it came to me fairly easy. However, the thing that came to me that was more difficult was trying to think of let's see what part of it. It was closer to the end where you're supposed to talk about a story that you
Mm,
know about your parents. And see, my mom and father divorced when I was 4, so I
mm-hmm,
did not know my father very well.
mm-hmm.
So I couldn't think of any stories about him.
Interesting.
But I grew up with my mother and my grandmother, and I thought of lots of stories about them. And all I kept coming back to was the beauty salon because I
Mm-hmm,
grew up in a
mm-hmm,
beauty salon, having been a beautician's daughter.
mm-hmm.
And I just remember that detail about my mom's fingernails. She would have, when she would give a woman a perm, they call them,
Yeah,
perm,
yeah,
permanent.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
She would do it without gloves.
Wow.
Nowadays, everybody wears
Yeah.
gloves. She would do
Yeah.
it without gloves, and she always came home with dark fingernails. And on
Right.
Sundays before church, she would soak her fingernails in bleach to try
Wow.
to whiten them up.
Wow.
Remember her coming home many nights with an aching back, and as a
Mhm.
child, she would say to us, walk on my back. So
Yeah.
she would get some relief, and then the varicose veins and all these other things. And so that was something that was more difficult for me to think of. But everything else, I mean, the food, I mean, I could write about what I
Yeah.
ate as a child all day long.
I could tell the food and the flowers were at the forefront. You know, that they were easily accessible. I
Very,
loved that memory. I love that detail though about your mother's hands and it was so evocative. So I'm glad you got there because and the varicose veins and my mom was a flight attendant, so she had some of those same. I mean, I'm guessing your mother also was a beautician and did not wear sneakers when she
no,
was, you know,
of
so
course not. My
so she's
mother
standing
never
all
wore sneakers
day.
a day in her life.
Right.
She always said that they didn't fit her feet. She had eight and a half narrow feet,
Hmm.
and it was always hard for her to find shoes. And of course, sneakers. Uh, I don't even know if they come in narrow. Maybe they do,
They
but
do now, but
they
yeah.
do now. But back
Hmm.
then,
Right.
she would have to wear
Hmm.
whatever was fashionable.
Right. So it's not only the standing, it's the standing on those kinds of shoes, you know. I mean, they didn't have much of a choice. Like it was like, oh, you got to present this very together picture of
Mhm.
womanhood, and it's not easy on your legs.
No, it's
Just
not easy on your body
no,
at all.
no. I'm sure her back must have hurt as well. I think it hurts I just got my hair done. I just got my hair cut, so I was talking to the woman who cuts my hair, and she was talking about her back. I
Mm.
mean, you're in these kind of awkward positions, and then you're standing, and yeah, it takes its toll.
And
Um,
she would work long hours, and she
mhm,
would have one
mhm.
customer after the next, and she wouldn't take a break to eat. And if she did eat, it was
Right.
just she'd live on Lance cheese crackers and RC cola.
Sequel. Yeah. Wow.
That was her diet, and
Yeah.
she kept slim smoking cigarettes and drinking RC cola. So
Uh,
when I talk about my mother, some people may picture this glamorous beautician, and
mm,
she was back in the day. But then there is a another side of it
mhm.
that's just so taxing.
Yeah. And I think it's important to acknowledge like things are complicated. Yes, she was glamorous. She was also working hard. And it was and it's a certain I think it's something maybe that we're beginning to acknowledge more, but that people are working hard and they're putting up a facade sometimes to make people feel at ease, but that doesn't mean they're not working hard and that it has a cost. Um, and that has makes historically makes people uncomfortable. And so, you know, they don't let people know because they want to keep getting paid and making money and being beloved and all these things, you know. They didn't want their clients to show up and hear, "Oh, my back hurts." But
Oh
that
no,
was her
would never
reality.
tell a client that.
Right.
And
Right.
even when I was learning to become a public speaker, my mentors would say, no one cares if you're having a good day or a bad day. They just want to hear what you have to say. And that's it. And so I think speakers are more transparent now, and trainers are. But in the olden days, you were just there for a reason, and you were there to work and do your best job and then collect a paycheck and go on to the next job.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we don't want to hear the details. You know, just do the thing and let us all just continue believing what we want to believe. So, I am so glad that you joined me because I've learned so much about you and these are things that you don't really learn about people in conversation, especially as you get older. It's not like you talk about what your mom did for work in social inter, or maybe you do, but I don't.
Not
I'll speak for
really.
myself. That doesn't come up.
Yeah.
Um, And I can see like what a foundational piece that is to your life, like growing up in a beauty shop.
Yes. Yes. It's, well, I think I witnessed the way my mother treated other people.
Mm-hmm.
And there were three women in the beauty shop who worked in the beauty shop. And she was the only one who would take her customers by their arm, the elderly customers, and take them by the arm and help them out of the chair and walk them to the dryer room and make sure they were comfortable and they had a magazine and they had a footstool. And my mom, maybe in the back of her mind, she knew she would get a
It's
better
good
tip.
business,
It's
sure.
good business,
Mm-hmm.
but that was just who she was. And as a
Right.
child, I witnessed that kindness, that behavior. And so I, it's no surprise that I ended up teaching etiquette as
Mm-hmm.
my profession because I
Mm-hmm.
had such a good role model. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
when I wrote my first book, I think it was, yeah, I dedicated my very first book, Business Class Etiquette Essentials for Success at Work, to my mother. And I said, to the best etiquette teacher in the world. Not only did she teach me, but she showed me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. She
yes,
lived it, right?
she did. She
Mm-hmm.
lived it.
Yeah. I think the small things make a difference. I'm definitely in that camp as a person. Like I I know in one Zoom you said, I'm writing thank you cards. I'm the only one who's I also write thank you cards, Jacqueline.
Okay. Yeah.
So I I just I do it for me at this point. I actually like doing it because I like the act of practicing gratitude
Hmm.
and putting it out into the world and saying thank you. And I had lunch with it. I'd be curious to see. This is completely not related to the poem, but is related to etiquette. I had lunch with a friend, and she was talking about how she and her friends they gave each other receipts for like their gratitude to each other. They were like, "Here's what I want to thank you for," and they wrote it out like a receipt. And I thought that was a really sweet thing to do, like to be very specific about what they gave them in their interaction. And I just thought that was a really sweet idea.
Yeah, that is
Um,
a sweet idea.
yeah.
I read recently where this man kept a diary of all the things that he loved about his spouse.
Oh,
And
I'm
every
gonna
single
cry.
day he would write one little thing. I mean, it might be just, okay, so she made coffee for me. She
Mm-hmm.
brought coffee to me. And the next day she walked the dog when I didn't feel like it or whatever. And
Yeah.
he kept this for 365 days. And then at the end of the year, he gave it to her
Mm-hmm.
as a thank you. And I thought, what a way to show gratitude to someone. What a great idea. You
That
just have
is
to be
a
disciplined and
really
do it.
great idea. And what a good habit. Like I earlier this year wrote something that delighted me because I read Book of Delights by Ross Gay. So I was making a habit of putting that in my stories and I was good for about 6 months. And it but I think even just doing it for that 6 months made me more aware of wanting to just see the little things that have delighted me in a day and kind of at the end of the day reflecting back because we are all moving at such a fast pace that we forget like even within or I forget within a day these little things that felt meaningful in the moment and like just taking a minute more to breathe those in um, it helps because I think as humans we tend to see the negative more easily
Mhm.
and I appreciate taking the time to that is a really sweet story.
I've always thought
I'm
about
like, oh man, that's so beautiful.
I've always thought about offering a course called The Art of Letter Writing,
Mm-hmm.
because there are people who would love to write a book, but they don't believe they can, or they don't have the time, or they don't feel like they're talented enough. But I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody can write a letter, and I think even though you might not do it every day, I have heard of instances where mothers would write letters to their children over a period of years and then give it to their children during different milestones like
Mm-hmm.
a graduation or a wedding or a birth of a baby. And I love that idea. I wish my
Yeah.
mother had written more letters to me, and I have saved a lot of the cards that she wrote. In fact, one of the sweet notes that she wrote me, I framed, and I keep it in my
Oh.
bedroom to just look at her handwriting, because I
Yeah.
think you can tell so much about a person just by their handwriting.
Oh, that's really sweet too. Yeah, I emails don't really
They don't
they
cut
don't
it, do
really
they?
carry the same punch. And I don't feel like my brain processes them the same way. I feel like letters that I've read, I remember them. I think because I'm a pretty visual person, so they sink in a different way than an email does. I found that even reading Kindle books, I sort of had to stop because I couldn't remember what I read. I would
Mhm.
just kind of read it and be like, "Yeah, I read the book." I don't know,
I know.
where for the physical book, I have a much easier time recalling what it was that affected me. Instead of with the Kindle book, I felt like it was good. That's all I got. I couldn't get into specifics. So I think that's really sweet about handwriting. We have my husband's grandmother's recipe box, the little cards, like the
Oh,
index
wow.
cards. And I
I
feel
love
that way about that.
Yes. Well, when my favorite aunt died, she left me with all of her Barefoot Contessa cookbooks
Mm.
and
With her notes and
with
things.
her notes in
Mm-hmm.
them, and the little tabs and things. And I love that because I can refer to that and say to myself, wow, she really cooked this and she made it this way. And so those little tiny details, like you said.
They keep you going. I really, obviously, we need big support and love in our lives too. I'm not saying it's a replacement, but I just think that it's worthwhile to take note.
Mhm.
And so how many books have you written? I know we need to wrap, but you said your first book, which implies you've written more than one. So how many books have you written?
I wrote two books,
Okay.
one being Business Class, Etiquette Essentials for Success at Work, and I wrote
Mm-hmm.
Poise for Success, Mastering the Four Qualities that Distinguish Outstanding Professionals. And they were both published by St. Martin's Press. And then during the pandemic, when I was bored to tears and I had nothing but time on my hands, I
Yeah.
wrote a little children's workbook. And I thought, I'll just sell this on my website and on social and this and that. Well, come to find out, this Chinese publisher wants to publish it.
Oh, really? That's
Yes.
wonderful. Oh, that's
So,
cool.
so
Good for
my
you.
agent sold it to the co-agent, and all of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's it. That's fun.
And we have someone here in the comments. I love business class book.
Oh, well, great.
That's wonderful. Well, do you have any last thoughts before we close, Jacqueline? Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this conversation.
I love this conversation too, and this is so out of my wheelhouse. Usually I'm speaking on etiquette topics, and so I love to speak about writing and the personal things, the things that are important in life. Not that etiquette isn't, and it is, but I just love to talk about our words and our writing and now poetry.
Right? Yes, you can refer it to this. See, I'm a writer. Look, here's my poetry reading.
Yes. Well, I do plan to post this on
Oh,
Facebook
good.
for
I
and I
get
know
as
you're
much
post
mileage out of it as you can.
and I know you're going to post it on
Yes,
Instagram, so
yes,
that's appreciated. And
yes.
I
Right
mean,
after this.
okay.
It's coming. That's what's great about Instagram Live. It's a very quick turnaround. So,
I know.
um,
And I want
well,
to thank you for putting all this together, because what you're doing is so helpful and informative to a lot of people, and you've got some amazing guests, just amazing and amazing writers. So I just feel humbled that
oh,
you included me.
well, I truly, it's a pleasure for me. I enjoy these poems and conversations, and I'm in awe pretty much regularly how many people have joined me and are going to continue to join me. And it's just what a what a beautiful thing that was born out of COVID, and a time when I felt disconnected, to reach out to others and find connection, and that's what this is. And I'm just grateful for you.
Isn't that interesting how some of us took a situation and we turned it into something beautiful, just like this, what you're doing? And um, yeah, I think that there always is something good that comes out of um, bad situations.
Yes. Yeah, I think that there can be. And I think also I've gotten much better at acknowledging that was bad. I used to just kind of want to just keep moving, like I'm going to keep moving toward the good things, but I definitely have taken more space in my life to say that was very hard too. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful now it's not over, but I am grateful that we're in a space where I can hug people again and I can see people I love again.
Mhm.
That was hard,
Oh, it was hard. It was hard.
really hard. So,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for what came out of it, but I am also grateful that hopefully it's in the rear view. So,
Well, and you and I would have never met had it
oh,
not.
so many people.
I
I mean,
know.
it's amazing. And I love how many people I know who write and care about words and the words they bring into the world. I've always loved reading and writing, and now I'm interacting with these people on a regular basis. It's such a gift.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, I'm sure I'll see you on a Zoom soon.
yes, yes, you will. I can't
Okay.
wait. Well,
Okay.
keep writing.
Thank you. You too.
You'll
Okay, we'll talk soon.
have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.